Hey everybody, this is B-Word of the Bleach Brothers podcast. Before we get into today's episode, I want to bring your attention to our Linktree. Please visit Linktree/Bleach Bros podcast for the links to all of our socials, streaming sites, and merch. Linktree is linktr.ee/Bleach Bros podcast, all one word. If you enjoy our content, make sure to give us a like and give us a review on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Also, invite your friends. And with that, let's get started with the show. Bleach Bros podcast is proud to align itself with Jerky Pro, a beef jerky manufacturer established by military and paramilitary veterans.
Available in 3-ounce or 1-pound bags with great flavors such as honey glazed, teriyaki, red hot, apple cinnamon, original, peppered, sweet barbecue, and if you're ballsy enough, nuclear.
Be sure to use our promo code to get some of the best jerky on the market. Use Bleach Bros 5, all lowercase, to take advantage of this offer today. You're listening to the Bleach Brothers podcast, hosted by B-Word and Jake. Welcome into the Bleach Brothers podcast. This is B-Word, and as usual, I am here with Jake the hater,
I'm here.
Jake the tailgater. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Game. I'm here. I'm not wearing khakis. I hate that
You're not
joke.
from State Farm?
Fuck that joke, dude. I hate that joke. I'm sitting in my office looking at you on my computer. My fish killed himself this week.
Yeah, you
my
told
pet
me
fish.
that.
You know, I always have to unplug my fish tank.
Yeah.
He jumped out. So lately, when we've been recording, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been little loud pops at the top of the tank.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, this fish is 12 years old. So you know me, I love fish. I've always had a lot of fish tanks. So I had an albino cichlid, an African cichlid, and he was the last one in there because when Corona hit, all my fish died. So they all got COVID or something. I don't fucking know. And he's the only one that survived. And I went and got new fish, and then they all died from the disease that he had. So I just quarantined him. He was by himself in this tank. And mind you, he already killed my favorite fish, old Jack, who was about 15 years old, right? This fish is about 12. And last night, my wife comes to me and goes, "Where's the fish?" I go, "What do you mean? He's in it's a 50-gallon tank. Where could he have gone?" So I'm moving everything in the tank. I'm like, "Oh, he's gone." And I know aggressive fish, when they're about to die, they'll pop at the top of the water and pretty much just kill themselves. So he must have jumped out. Now, the problem with this is, B-Word, there's 3 scenarios here. Either my dog ate him, my 18-month-old son grabbed him and put him somewhere in my house that I will find later, because that's the type of stuff he does. Or my mom was packing her bag near the fish tank, and her suitcase was wide open for a day and a half, and she's on vacation right now, and there's a fish in her suitcase somewhere.
That would be hilarious if it's the last one. I'm not going to lie.
I would love that.
That would be funny, dude. That would be funny. Yeah, I've never heard of a fish killing itself. But I did send you a video yesterday. I don't know if you saw it. It's the How to Cure Racism. It's a guy who's on stage. Did you watch that?
Yeah, I did.
And so basically what it basically says is that there's I don't remember what the song lyrics are, but it says, "Oh, for all my Hispanic people, what is this?" And he starts with a lyric to a song, and then all the Hispanic people finish it. And then he says, "All my black people," and and he says, "It was all a dream I used to read," and all the black people go, "Word Up Magazine." And then he goes, "All the white people make some noise." And so the white people make some noise. And he goes,
"Is it just a bunch of woos?"
Yeah. And then he goes, "Like a good neighbor." And all the white people go, "State Farm is there." So that kind of goes with your Jake from State Farm
I
thing.
I hate that so much now.
I don't blame you, man. I really don't. I work in insurance, and actually, so does the Stoned, and we both don't work for State Farm. So there you go. But man, I'm going to get a little serious here real quick. After we recorded last week, so we typically record Wednesdays. On Friday morning at about 4:00 in the morning, I ended up getting a call from my mom, which she doesn't call me at 4:00 in the morning ever. and I ended up missing her phone call. And so I ended up calling her back, and I found out that my cousin died. My cousin died in a motorcycle car accident, and very sad, dude. We've talked about how the podcast is very much therapeutic for us.
Right.
And I have to say, the podcast community, the ones that we've networked with and, become friendly with and whatever, they've been amazing. I've received individual messages from a lot of podcasters out there wishing me condolences, telling me that my family's in their prayers, just sending me positive thoughts. And I just appreciate that, dude. It's never easy to deal with things like this, especially when they're unexpected. But because this podcast has been therapeutic for you, and because it's therapeutic for me, I decided we should talk about death a little bit. And so
I don't mind talking about death.
You talked initially about your kamikaze fish, and so there's that. You went through another loss of a relative, basically with Roan, your dog, your German Shepherd, earlier this year. So I guess my question is, man, is like, we've talked about, or at least we've shared on our socials, some questions that are out there that we'll try to address in today's episode. But how do you handle death, man? I mean, what do you do? Like how do you specifically handle it?
So I've actually had some deep conversations with my wife about this, and the issue I have, B-word, is I actually haven't dealt with a lot of death in my life. That we're close. I mean, I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking about you this morning, which is weird because you did call me late last night, and as a good friend, like we talk a lot, but
yeah,
like it seemed a little later than normal, so I answered to make sure you're okay, and then of course we just BS'd like normal. But
right,
I was thinking, dude, we've known each other like 30 years.
Yeah,
that's a long fucking time. And out of those 30 years, my family doesn't die for some reason.
They're stubborn, man.
They're all like, I'm going to be this old geriatric fuck that's just angry forever. So I haven't actually dealt with a lot of death, whether it's family members. I mean, I've had friends die. Rowan was hard this year, animals and stuff, but I don't know. I look at it differently. Like, I think it's just a cycle, right? Like, I'm not afraid of it. Like, we've had that discussion. I am not afraid of death at all. And I mean, I don't know if that comes to, when I've talked about on the show, when I've tried to commit suicide and I was that close, and some reason something saved me. Raising animals. I grew up on a farm. You raised a pig, you can name it. It was your pet, then you ate it. And so, I work in an industry where that's a thing. So I don't know. I think I can disconnect myself very well with that. Yeah. But in that regard, B-word, I've never had to deal with like my mom or my brother or my cousin or anybody super close to me. And my wife has brought that up. She goes, I think you're going to realize it's different when like your grandpa dies. Because he will. I mean, like, let's just be upfront. He'll die, or, my mom will die. All of us will die. And I don't know how I'll handle it.
Yeah, it's interesting, man, because my first experience with like death that actually affected me, I guess I should say, because I knew, like, my great grandma died. Like, I remember when she died, but I was really too young to kind of process it, I guess, or really like have it impact me. But the first death that actually impacted me, I was in 4th grade. It was after I moved away, after we spent some time together in elementary school, and there was a kid named Daniel. He was part of 3 brothers, so he was the middle brother. And he actually went away for the summer. He went to his dad's in one of the Dakotas. I don't remember if it was north or south. And it's, farming, ranching, whatever. So they have the ranch pickups. And for some reason, the older brother, which was like in 5th or 6th grade, he was driving the pickup with the 2 brothers that were in it and got in a car accident on the farm. And the middle brother died. Daniel died. And so that was like my first experience with death, because we were in the Boy Scouts at the time. And I remember all of us getting dressed up in our Boy Scout outfits to go to his funeral. And like the pastor or preacher or whatever he was asked if anybody would like to come up and say something. And that was one of the first times that I spoke in a manner that way. And I basically just said, he was my friend. And then I broke down crying and I went away. And, we've known people that have died, people that haven't been too terribly close to us, classmates or whatever. But the death that probably hurt the most, or at least initially hurt the most, was my grandfather. He died in 2010, and this was the man who taught me how to drive. This was my guy, my grandpa. And that was really, really tough for me to process, dude. I was down for the count for a little bit. And, since my other grandpas died, my grandma's died, and now my cousin's passed away. And it's tough because not one of them is the same. And they all affect me differently, but they all have that sadness that just kind of sticks with you. It's almost like a lump in your throat. Yeah. It's just like a cloud almost. Like I'm in finals as well this week. And I actually had to call my counselor at lunch today for school, and just to see if I can get any grace with turning in my stuff, because like I literally can't sit down and do homework. It's just one of those things that just impacts me. It's like anytime I sit down and try to process thoughts, I'm just thinking about all the things that, me and my cousin did when we were younger, and, where his life has gone and all that sort of stuff.
I'm trying not to be heartless, but you've known me forever, and I sort of just go, okay. And I, like, even with my dog, I was sad. Don't admit, I mean, but I was just like, yeah, I'll go to work tomorrow. I'm fine. Yeah. Like, and my coworkers and my boss and everybody call me going, oh, dude, I'd be out. I'd be like, why? Yeah. Like, it sucks. And like, cause I remember my dad's mom died, and he asked me if I wanted to go to the funeral. Now, mind you, I wasn't really close with my dad's side. And I just went, no, because I got invited to a birthday party. So I got to choose, and I was like, why would I want to go to something sad? So I went to a birthday party. Right. I think the only one that really like got to me was, I had a mentor growing up named Clyde, and he was a Marine. He was a neighbor of ours, and he was that guy. He reminded me a lot of like, what's his name? Clint Eastwood from Gran Torino. Like, so he was that old, angry, like, but nice, but just simple military man. And so he paid me and my brother, I think, $50 an hour to mow his lawns. Wow. But the reason is he wanted to teach us, like, okay, come over, have a schedule, do this. He taught me how to drive my first car, his PT Cruiser. I remember one time I did a shit job and like ran over like newspapers in his yard, just left it. He made me come over at midnight. He called my mom and drove over to my house and picked us up, and he let us have it. Right. My mom let us have it because we should know better. Right. And at a time, and I mean, my dad I don't talk about him a lot, but I mean, this man was more of a mentor to me at the time in my life than my dad was. Right. With things. And I remember he got cancer, and I remember everything he taught me. And like, I have a mural of his like dog tags and stuff hung up in my house. And so he was important to me. But even then, I went and saw the gun salute that they did for him and did all that. And I don't know. I just didn't break down. Like I said, I try not to be a heartless person, but I'm also I understand it. I'm more like, okay, this is a thing that'll happen. Yeah. The world's not going to stop for me. It stopped for them, but not for me. So I sort of move on, like I said. But I've never had somebody like dramatically close to me. Like, if I could be upfront, B-word, like, I worry about you. Yeah. Like, I mean, just if we can be candid, you're a big guy. And it scares me at times because, there are times we've talked about behind the curtain, about things. And it does make me wonder, like, oh, what would happen if B-word was gone tomorrow? Because like, we talk, aside from my wife, I think I talk to you the most out of an adult besides coworkers and like. So I'm the person that you don't sleep with, that you talk to the most. And I would sleep with you as long as ESPN was on, but but you know what I mean? Like, but it's that point, like, that does scare me. And I mean, that's because that's a vivid reality. Like, seeing my mom this year, how she's getting older and like, it's harder to move. And that's a vivid reality. My grandparents just came up to visit, and, they're in their 80s, but like, we used to go out in the woods and hike and stuff. And I was like, oh, you guys want to go like on a stroll down the road? They're like, no. And I was just like amazed that they're not as mobile. They don't do as much. Yeah. And so you're starting to see that end of the tunnel. But until that tunnel actually ends, I don't know how it'll come down for me. It's one of those things, man, that in my experience, that, you can think about it and you can think, okay, what would happen and what would my reaction be? But you really don't understand it till you get there. You know what I mean? It's like, and again, to be completely candid about, the passing of my cousin, we were close, dude. When we grew up, he was like a brother to me because I didn't have any siblings at the time. He didn't have any siblings at the time that we knew about.
And it was, we were two peas in a pod. You know, we were close. We had the same type of relationship. We had the same interests. So it was tough, man. I didn't expect him to go, at least now. You know, I mean, everybody's got an expiration date, right? But I didn't expect him to go right now, especially when he was starting to do some really good things with his life and for his kids and his wife and etc. So I did. I had a little bit of a, I don't want to say a meltdown, but I mourned. I'm still mourning, I guess. I mean, I'm still dealing with it, but you know, I mean, men cry, dude. I had a good cry, and tried to process it the best way I know how, and tried to be supportive to his wife and kids and his mom and, you know, my kid and my mom and, you know, everybody involved in it as much as I can, but also trying to process, okay, how am I dealing with it? You know, he and I, not that we ever went through anything negative, but he and I, we went on two different paths right about the time that my daughter was born. You know, he's a year younger than me. And, you know, he wasn't a parent. He wasn't about to be a parent. He wasn't going to be a parent right then. So he didn't have to deal with the same things that I dealt with. And he could go and be that 17, 18, 19-year-old kid without any sort of recourse. Whereas I didn't have that same luxury. So while I was dealing with responsibilities and, you know, trying to figure things out, he had, you know, whatever he wanted to in his life at the time that made him happy or that he wanted to deal with. And so we had two different interests. We had two different paths in life that were going on, and they came back and they intermingled several times throughout the years. But you know, I love him to death, and I love him through his death. And so it's just one of those things. But that also gets me thinking too. You know, I know both you and I, we have similar faiths. I don't really want to get into too much of a faith discussion on the podcast here because, you know, religion, politics is not really what you talk about on a podcast unless that's your preference. But what do you think happens when you die?
My faith says that, you know, I'll go to heaven, right? I'll leave it at that. Body wise, if I donate myself to science and stuff, it hopefully will help something. I'll go on the ground. I mean, we've joked about what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a marionette and half cremated and all that bullshit, right? But
right.
Honestly, that's it. I mean, I don't think there's much more. I honestly think though, to the upcoming point of death, I think I'm going to have a shit ton of fear.
Yeah.
I think it's finally going to like hit me all at once, like a brick wall, like that crash test dummy. Like I'm going. Not that I'm living too fast like James Dean, but you know what I mean? Like everything's fine. And then it's going to happen. I'm going to be like, oh, fuck, this is it. Like this is finally. And I think it's like a big cold sweat. If I could just be upfront, I think for a lot of people, even if you don't see it coming, I think there's that moment like when your body does dissipate or whatever. There's that ultimate fear because the unknown, right?
Right.
And like I said, I have my faith. I know what I believe, where I think I'm going. But that I think the biggest part of it is that ultimate fear of the unknown. Yeah. And I think it hits you instantly because they say death comes in an instant. And we haven't died, so we don't really know.
Right.
But that's how I feel about it.
Like, I'm not trying to get political in this comment, and I hope that nobody takes it that way. But everybody who supports or is opposed to abortion, whatever side of the aisle that they're on, or whatever side of the issue that they're on, not one of them has been aborted, right? And so they all have the luxury of not knowing that. Same thing with death. As all of us speculate on death, none of us have died. I mean, some people may have died for a brief moment or something like that, but none of it's been permanent. You know what I mean? Like nobody's hit the great beyond yet, or whatever is on the outside of us. For me, again, I do think that there's a heaven and hell. My hope is I'll get into heaven. And then, you know, hopefully it's a big, fun place with, you know, everybody that I love and a whole bunch of good things there. But it's interesting, you know, looking at different faiths and thinking about what they believe. You know, there's Shangri-La and there's Atlantis, and there's all these different things depending on what people believe in. And it gets me thinking, you know, you and I have a similar idea of what happens when we die. What if you could like wave a magic wand and say, okay, when I die, this is what I want. What would it be?
One, I want to know everything. So you ever remember the movie Mission to Mars with Lieutenant Dan?
I remember it. I don't remember.
Well, I know why you remember it, because we went to the theater
in that Pahrump theater, right?
And Jim had a Red Planet moment of his own on his face.
Oh yeah.
During when the Red River was a flowing, he kept it going when the Beaver Dam was broken. But that's a side.
He looked like Joaquin Phoenix in the Joker.
He looked like that fat kid that ate the chocolate cake, but it was just it was the red front, the big Chinese
red velvet cake.
Yeah. But at the end of that movie, like when they find out like aliens or whatever, have this thing on Mars, it shows the whole evolution of the world, like how everything went, like a video to pretty much show you everything. My hope is that I learn everything instantly of all life and everything. I want every answer, right? I think that would be awesome.
Almost like a data upload type.
Right. Exactly.
Something. Okay.
The next thing is I mean, if I really could choose, is I get to start over. I would love a reset button and just relive.
Would you want to start over as yourself or as something else?
Myself.
Yourself?
I wish I could start over with myself with like not all the knowledge, right?
Okay.
In the sense like you learn a tiny, like you remember tiny little things. Like sometimes, like when you have like deja vu or whatever, you're like, oh, yeah. I think I've done this before. Like those are your minute moments. Or like when you have those gut feelings, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. There's probably a reason why you have that. That would be an awesome thing, I think, if you could just keep doing it until eventually you get it right into the perfection. Because I mean, even if what we believe B word is true and there's eternity after this, right? If you can live eternally to get to eternity, what does it matter? How many times you have to live, right? If there's an eternity after this. And that's how I look at it. Like that would be fucking amazing to just keep living over and over until you can finally reach a perfectional peak. And some people might take longer than others, right?
Yeah, no, I get that.
But,
so basically you're settling on, you would like to reincarnate as yourself, but I do kind of want to break that down a little bit, because would you want to know like when you die and how you die? Like for your second life?
No, like I said, I don't. All I want to know is like there's a tiny bit of knowledge there that's like, it's almost like an ethereal feeling, if that makes sense. Like moments around me that make me feel like, okay, like what is it? What do hippies say? Like those auras, or
the chakras and the
like that type of stuff around me. That's it. That like give me like notions of thought, or like other people around me, maybe almost like that Matrix effect. Like they're trying to teach me, and I'm not like like you when you come to me and you give me advice. Maybe you are always repeating the same advice, and until I fucking finally take it, right?
Okay.
Something like that. The only thing I wouldn't want is I wouldn't want to be in the same time period all the time. Like I think it would be fun to just move around, continue.
I would agree with that. There's a lot of different things that I would like to experience as far as decades and different eras and whatever. For me, I think reincarnation is such a sticky thing. Like I don't want to be reincarnated to a cockroach, right? Like it's just not something that I want to do. But if I was reincarnated to like, I don't know, a baby elephant or something like that would be something that would be pretty neat. I get the point of being reincarnated to yourself. I think I would probably want to have a little bit more knowledge. Like, I don't know how much knowledge you mentioned that you want to have, if you did mention it, but I wouldn't want to know when I died. I wouldn't want to know how I died. But I would want to know almost like indicators of I need to make a decision like this, not forcefully. Like I want to have free will. I want to be able to say, yeah, I want to do this or I want to do that. But I want to have like, not big ass arrows telling me, hey, make this decision or go down this path, but just like, here's your pro con list of, going down either way. I don't want to relive like a Groundhog Day scenario. Like that just doesn't appease me at all. Yeah. But something of that nature would be kind of cool. If you were to come back as like an animal of some kind, what would you want to come back as?
That's tough. There's a lot of thoughts on this, right? I would not want to be a predator because I'm relying on species around me to survive, right?
Right.
I don't want to go in water because I have a deep fear. Maybe there's a reason why. I guess I would want to be a pack animal.
Okay, so like a wolf or
like a coyote or something. Just because I would like the thought process of having a group around me that's like minded, to hang out with. Because I think also too, we're at that point in our lives, or I am, and you had this where you were talking earlier about with your cousin where you hit a trajectory where you had a child.
Yeah.
And you had to grow up and man up and do that. And I'm at that point right now where I have kids at a certain age. And until I meet friends that have kids of a certain age, it's me and my wife. We have other friends, but it's like you have friends that are the single friends. You have friends that are the married friends that don't have kids. You have the friends that have kids that are older. You have the friends that have kids that are way too young. You know what I mean? And finding that balance and friendships. I think that lifestyle of a pack mentality, almost like a compound living too, like meerkats. I would love to be a fucking meerkat. There's a whole bunch of us. We live underground. We eat grubs. We just hang out. You know what I mean? Like, I would like that. I think I'm going to go with.
You're going to go with a meerkat?
Yeah.
A meerkat. All right.
You could be my Pumbaa.
But in real life though, Pumbas are actually like pretty vicious, dude. I don't know that we would be friends.
They are. Well, they could be. I mean, we live in tunnels. We eat grubs. I'm sure we could be buddies.
When I was a young warthog. Yeah. I think I'd want to come back as a bear, like not a rar.
No, bear. I know what kind of bear you are. Yeah, what's a bear? What's a bear? Oh, I got your bear, boo boo.
Yeah, not a rar bear. I mean, whatever. But I'd want to come back as a black bear or brown bear. I don't think I want to come back as a grizzly bear or polar bear, or even a panda bear for that matter. I think I'd want to be a brown bear or a black bear where I just scavenge and I fish and I lay around, climb trees. Like, to me, that just sounds beautiful. Like I would just, until like a hunter shoots me dead or something, like I would be totally fine with that type of living. I wouldn't want to you don't really have much of a choice depending on the food around it, but like the scavenging through garbage cans and whatever, like that just doesn't sound all that fun. But everything else sounds fun. Bro.
You're going to live in
Brooklyn bear?
In Brooklyn and just wander around the streets with the homeless. And they're like, oh, there's the bear again.
Yeah. Next thing you know, my ass is getting handed to me by 4 turtles and a rat.
Yeah, dude.
It's like, what the fuck, dude?
Oh, man, you're just eating pizza boxes.
I know, right?
Life. Yeah.
Crazy, dude. So to kind of continue on the topic, I have a quote here, and I don't know how many people have heard this. And I don't know if you've even heard it, to be honest with you, but Woody Allen had a quote, the famous movie director. His quote was, "In my next life, I want to live life backwards. You start out dead and you get that out of the way. Then you wake up in an old person's home and you're feeling better every single day. You get kicked out for being too healthy. You collect your pension, and then when you start to work, you get a gold watch and a party on your first day. You work for 40 years until you're young enough to enjoy your retirement. You party, drink alcohol, and are generally promiscuous. Then you're ready for high school. Then you go to primary school. You become a kid. You play. You have no responsibilities. You become a baby until you're born. And then you spend the last 9 months floating in a luxurious spa-like conditions with central heating, room service on tap, larger quarters every single day. And then voila, you finish as an orgasm."
That's what I was going to say, dude. You end up back in a vagina, which is awesome.
Yeah, except for it's your mom's. But, there's that.
Damn it, Bjorn, you just ruined everything.
Well, if you could choose the womb that you would be in, that might be a little bit more,
That'd be weird.
Ideal.
No, because they're still your mom. What do you think? Okay. I like this whole thing. I like everywhere he's going with this. How do you think it would be to live backwards?
Like having Benjamin Button syndrome?
Yeah, but I mean, you start out dead, which is weird, right? To come back to life.
Yeah. Yeah, that is dead. So I don't know. I guess, we don't remember our birth. right? So we don't
Some of us
really,
don't.
I mean,
I'm
whatever.
just joking. Go ahead.
But we don't remember our birth. So we don't remember like if we were in any pain. We don't remember the emotion of it. We don't remember like the feeling of it, nothing like that. So I would be curious, like for people who died a painful death, like would you have to go through all the pain and then would you remember it?
Yeah, like what if you burn to death and like your skin
Yeah.
comes back on?
Yeah. Like I imagine you start feeling better and better, over the course of however long that takes. But I don't know that that's something like, what if you're cremated? Like, do your remains just like start to go together until you're like on fire? And then you're just like an embalmed carcass. Like there's a lot. It's kind of a loaded question, but if you want me to simplify it, I can simplify it.
Yeah, go ahead. Because I think we're thinking way too much into this. Like, oh, well, did they scatter my ashes? And then I got to wait for my arm to come back from Montana where I told my cousin to throw me, near a cliff, like, you're near Yosemite and whatever.
Yeah, all we are is dust in the wind. It's so funny. I think that would be an interesting perspective, especially being a parent, grandparent, great grandparent, because you form bonds with these people. Your life would be going in the same trajectory that theirs is, but on a different level, if that makes sense, because they would have already, they would have already had, like your kids and grandkids would have already had their old life and their death, and then now they're going backward, and so you catch them on this back. I mean, it's hard to think about. I guess
it's
I'm
like
still
the
going
bell curve
too
of
deep.
life, though. Like, because if you look at it, right, like you start out as an orgasm, you come out, you crawl, can barely walk, barely talk, have no teeth, have barely bones, right?
Yeah.
It takes a while to get to a peak. You hit the peak, and then everything starts to go downhill, and then you start crawling again, can barely walk, you have no teeth, like, and so like there's that. The funny thing to me would be is like when you talk to old people now, right? Whether it be your grandparents, older people at work, whatever, they're giving you life lessons, right? Like they'll try to tell you, oh, don't do what I did. If I was younger, I wouldn't do this, or never take up smoking, or make sure you go to college, or, do this or that. It would be funny to hear the adverse of that. Like,
right,
man, when you get to 7 years old, make sure that, you do this, or make sure when you're 5 that you know how to tie your shoes before you turn 4.
Or you've got this 11-year-old kid that's like coming up to you and you're like 21 and he's like, hey man, you need to like go through the school and be promiscuous. He's just like telling you, hey, there's condoms in the bathroom. Just use all of them. They're free. Totally fine.
I think the biggest fears for me is to know that you're going to get dumber, in the sense of not because you're forgetful, because your mind is just not as developed, which is a weird
happen already.
No, because it happens in the adverse, right? You're still, I think older people with dementia, they're not smart. They're just forgetful, right? Their brain just forgets. The difference is you're unlearning, right? If you look at it on the trajectory.
Right. I'm not saying that it's like dementia. I'm just saying that there's certain things that you don't understand life-wise as life progresses. I mean, we talked on an episode, I don't remember which one it was, where we're talking about the older generation and asking for advice, and at what point do you feel like you're a parent or you're an adult and whatever. Like there's certain things that happen when you're 40 years old as opposed to 70 years old that you just don't understand when you're 70, that when you're 40 you're dealing with it. Prime case it would be technology. Like does technology stay the same in this example, where you're living life backward? I think it's an interesting thought. I think I would love to hear like a little seminar on this, like what this would look like, because I'm totally curious from a scientific perspective.
Well, the other thing for me is anti-puberty.
Oh God, wouldn't that be weird?
To go like, because I mean, we go and again, the bell curve of life, right? You essentially go to where your libido goes down and stuff, right? But can you imagine your hormones just go away and everything gets smaller and like no hair and unuseful and all that? And like you've lived your whole life going, okay, I can almost always use this, and now I can't. It's almost like let's imagine it this way. You can't drink until you're 21, right? And let's say you're good and you didn't do it until you're 21. And then you turn 21 and you're told, oh, you have 5 years. And then after 5 years, you have to stop and it'll never happen again. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, do you go full bore? How do you react to it? All that, right? But there's actual reasons why you can't, not just, oh, you have to quit. There's legitimate reasons behind it. And so the same thing, like you're going through anti-puberty, dude. That'd be fucking weird. That'd be hard to deal with.
It would be weird.
I mean, hormonally, it'd be weird, right?
Right.
Because like you're looking at it like, oh, I have these feelings, these urges, and all that, and are they all of a sudden just gone?
Well, and one day, dude, your face is just covered in zits. Like, can you imagine that? Like, just covered, dude. Like, I don't know. I don't really remember how much acne you had as a teenager. Like, I had some. It wasn't crazy, but like there's some people out there. Like, I remember going to school, dude, where everything was a zit on some people's faces. And so you went from this clear complexion, potentially scars from acne or whatever, and now you just have like all these little mini skin volcanoes that just show up like, and your hair starts to recede in your pelvic area. And like, dude, just what a weird thought, man. What a weird thought. It's crazy.
That's an interesting way. I mean, that's even more interesting in reincarnation or anything, I think, is if life was backwards.
Yeah. Well, and the fact of the matter is, it's like, I understand Woody Allen's point. He's like, oh, well, you finish in an orgasm. But do you though? Because like, you finish as your dad's orgasm.
You finish not knowing for like the next few years into a pile of goo, essentially. Because I mean, who even remembers being 2?
Right.
Like, so it's that thought process. And so I think it's that same, you would have that same fear, right? Knowing the inevitable is going to happen, that you're going to end up in a hole alone, turn into a pile of goo alone. You know, somebody else is fucking without you alone. Like,
yeah. Like I've said for years, dude, that you know, like in conferences or whatever, where they're like, oh, where did you come from? My first answer is, well, I showed up to a party with my dad and I left with my mom. And like, that's how I got into the world, you know? Like, I didn't know it was a party. I didn't know I was invited, but that's just what happened, you know? And so, but then to think about that on the reverse, like I would finish like a decathlon, dude. I would be swimming like on a full belly. And next thing you know, like I am not hungry anymore, or I'm like super hungry, but I'm still swimming, and I'm swimming backward. Like, dude, there's like a lot of questions that come with this.
What about test tube babies?
Well,
can you imagine you end up in a tube? Just a tube, frozen.
Wow.
The ice age of millennium,
like,
dude.
Like the sperm would jump out of the cup like your fish jumped out of the fish tank.
Yeah, Roger Rabbit's dead. My fish. Which I love because my daughter's been calling him Red Robin all week.
That's so funny.
And I just really want to be like, yum.
Right? That's hilarious. So that brings us to the next topic. Since we're talking about afterlife and death and reincarnation and all this sort of stuff, it got me thinking about top 5 films that are from the afterlife. And as usual, we always come with 2 honorable mentions, or at least we usually bring 2 honorable mentions. So it's kind of a broad topic. Like I had a lot of really deep thought on what is and what isn't an afterlife film. But as we get into that, I kind of want to bring up some of the comments that we have from our social media. So we've got Corpse Bride, the animated film by Tim Burton, which is pretty good. Little Nicky was brought up by Gnome at Dad's on Dayquil. What Dreams May Come is with Robin Williams. And that's a good film. Cody at Dungeons and Podcasts said Star Wars because they have the Force Ghost. Yeah, I mean, whatever. So Bedazzled was brought up to us by Bottled Up Bitches on Twitter. So I mean, there's quite a few. Ebony actually brought up Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. So I mean, there's quite a lot of these. So let's start with you, Jake. Let's go honorable mentions. Give me your 2 honorable mentions and why they made your list.
So Ebony said one, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. I actually like that better. I actually like that better than the Next Little Adventure. I remember watching it in Pahrump. Remember we had UPN, the channel?
Oh yeah, I haven't heard of that in forever.
It was on TV and it was like a Saturday. I woke up and I watched it and I was like, what is this? Because I always watch Excellent Adventure and I just fell in love with it, especially the scene with when he's in hell and the giant bunny is chasing them. So I that's an honorable mention. Number 2 is actually a kids movie that is recent, Coco.
I've never seen Coco.
So I will give you this.
This is the one where you can't talk about Bruno, right?
No, that's Encantido. or Encanto or whatever.
Okay, never mind.
Coco is, well, I have kids, so I have that. But, you know, like the Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead? Okay,
Day of the Dead
I know
one.
which one it is. Yeah.
Great flick, great story. Pixar can do no wrong. Let's just be honest with ourselves. And I just really liked it. I thought it was a good movie all around. Actually, a really good story, great songs and all that. So it makes the honorable mention. It's not my top 5 because it's not really a movie for me. I would have probably never watched it like you haven't if I didn't have kids. I probably wouldn't have went out there and been like, oh, I need to see this. Like, which I find odd because Up, I had to see. I don't know why.
I love Up.
Love Up, right?
Such a great film. Yeah.
But there's a lot of like movies are coming out now and I'm getting to that point where I don't need to watch them. But those are my 2 honorable mentions. What do you got?
So I've got Ghost with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore. Mm-hmm. And it didn't make my top 5 because I feel like there's 5 more movies that I can relate to more with that. But, you know, it's a good one. I think it's one of Whoopi Goldberg's best roles. Patrick Swayze was good in it. Demi Moore was good in it. It had a decent storyline. The villain was good in it. So, yeah, honorable mention there. A Dog's Purpose came out in 2017 with Dennis Quaid. Now, this movie, I have a little bit of a story with this movie. So I saw the preview. I knew the dog was going to die. I knew the dog was going to die multiple times because the dog reincarnates into different dogs. I took my daughter to see the film, and you basically get yourself emotionally attached to this dog in about the first 20 minutes of the film. Like he goes from a puppy to an older dog. He's raised with a kid. The kid goes off to college. Like it's the dog watching his best friend, and like you deal with that, right? And so what's really funny about it is that everybody in the movie theater was crying when the dog dies. And I was prepared. Yeah, it was sad, but I was prepared, so I wasn't crying. I look at my daughter. She's crying. She's got little tears coming out. These ladies behind me are boobing, dude. They're just... And so I look back at my kid, and 2 seats away from her is this kid that's probably around her age. He's got this big ass afro, this like red-headed afro, right? And he's trying not to look at his mom while he's crying. So he's got his head turned toward me, and he is just bawling his eyes out, dude. Snot bubbles. He's got tears coming down his face, his red face. He opens his eyes long enough to see that I'm staring at him, and he like turns back to his mom. It was so funny. It overall, dude, a really good movie. Dealt with the death of a dog. I think dogs are family, so it hits home. So those are my 2 honorable mentions right there. Now, as usual, Jake, we have top 5. Do you have these in order? In any order?
I do actually tonight.
Okay, so let's start with your order, and then I'll just play it by ear because mine are not in order.
Number 5 is Ghost.
Okay.
Good movie. Essentially, I'm going to be candid here. I got laid a lot to this movie.
I can see that.
And with life comes death, right? Or death comes life. Yeah. So
with pottery comes sex.
Pottery, Whoopi Goldberg, no eyebrows, Patrick Swayze, sexy scenes. Yep. No, this was a movie this was a go-to, dude. Like, you know, like remember, I don't remember what movie it is with Cat P Mouth, redhead, and Ryan Gosling when she's like, what's your move?
Yeah.
Crazy sex, crazy lust, whatever. With the guy, oh God, now I can't even remember the guy.
I can't
from The Office. Come on. Come on.
Steve Carell. Steve Carell.
That
Crazy
movie,
Stupid Love.
Crazy Stupid Love. When she's like, what's your move? One of my moves was either Dirty Dancing or Ghost. You throw that on, dude, before you could Netflix and chill when you Blockbuster and Busted. Dude, went to town with that. So that's my number 5. Yours isn't in order, but what would you name next?
All Dogs Go to Heaven. All Dogs Go to Heaven is such a good fucking movie. I don't know when the last time I watched it was. It's been a while. But such a great film, dude. Like I remember watching this thing over and over and over again. I don't have much more that I can say about it other than it's a great fucking animated film. Yep. It was funny. It was sad. Good storyline. I loved it, dude. So yeah,
that's a great fucking flick. Next would be 13 Ghosts. And so here's the thing. I'm doing these are my bottom 2 out of the 5 because watchability, reasons that happened, right? But 13 Ghosts, I love that movie with Matthew Lillard. And it technically deals with Afterlife, right? Like Ghosts.
Okay,
It's a very enjoyable horror film. And I just liked the movie. And so to me, it was like, this was a hard topic because it was like, well, are you dealing with people dealing with Afterlife? Are you dealing with just because there's ghosts there? Sort of like what Cody said, Star Wars. Are you dealing with people dying in the movie? Stuff like that. Like not a slasher film, but you know what I mean? So it makes my list though, because I can watch this movie a lot.
I'm with
and
it.
I really like it. So that would be my next one, number 4.
My next one in the order that I have it here is Heaven is for Real. It's a 2014 film with Greg Kinnear as the main character. Greg Kinnear is a pastor. His son dies and has a vision of going to heaven and meeting family and whatever. It is a faith-based film, but man, it's a good film. It's well done, well acted. It moves you emotionally. So definitely like that. Heaven is for Real 2014.
Okay. I can give it that. I've never seen it, but I guess I'll check it out. My next one is one that I know you've never seen. You brought this up before, is The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, I have not watched this still.
I'm a big M. Night Shyamalan fan. I mean, of course, this was his probably prominent start. It was one of those movies. It was great because it was made in that time where everybody kept their fucking mouth shut.
Yeah.
And we're just like, you need to watch it. You need to see. And they didn't spoil it. And I honestly think, and
that's why I haven't watched it, is because it's been spoiled for me.
Right. But it's one of those things. And I mean, things came out later. And like there's a funny scene in one of my favorite TV shows, Scrubs, where the guy's watching it, the janitor's watching it in the closet, and Dr. Cox walks in and just ruins it and goes, if you haven't seen it by now, it's been out for like 7 years. Fuck you, essentially. Right.
Right.
But it's one of those films, like, I loved it because I honestly think spoilers came from this, in the sense of like people spoiling movies. Like, don't ruin this film for each other. Just watch it and you'll see. And it's such a twisting ending. And it really marked Hollywood to change like how they really went for those twists and turns and stuff. And so it deals with the dead. Great film, great acting, good everything all around. So that'd be my number 3.
I will watch that movie eventually because I know that I need to watch it, but I haven't watched it, so I can't put it on the list. My next one is What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams and Cuba Gooding Jr. Both of which were excellent in their roles. It is kind of a fantasy film in a sense where Robin Williams' character goes to heaven and he understands that his wife is in hell. And like Cuba Gooding Jr. is acting as a guide to get him there to see his wife. And there's a lot of risk being taken for that. But I love Robin Williams, dude. I know you love Robin Williams too. One of his probably most underrated movies, I would say, just because it's not one of the prominent ones. But What Dreams May Come is next on my list.
That's good. I mean, I've watched the movie. It's probably not my highest for Robin Williams, but I can see it. And plus it really deals with, as you're saying, the death part. But the next one's more the fun side. And I mean, I'll say this, the next 2 really like shaped childhood and like stuff like that for me, right? In the sense of like what type of films I liked. And it's Beetlejuice.
Okay. That's my next one too, is Beetlejuice.
And then just tell me if you're wrong. Not only just for movie sense of practical effects, great entertainment, fun stuff, like a totally different take on life and death, right? And like how it goes about, but like just watching them when they go into like a DMV sort of thing, like with like their souls, is hilarious to me.
Yeah, so good. It's purgatory. I think they call it purgatory in there, where it's and then they have the book, like the How to Deal with Death book, and perfect casting in every single role in that film. Mm-hmm. Every single role in that film. It's also really good in a sense where it has a very good storyline that keeps the audience engaged. I would argue it's probably Michael Keaton's best movie.
I don't think it's his best movie because there is Batman to consider.
I argue
wise
that.
Though, I mean, that's another day for another story, another podcast. We can rank Michael Keaton films because I think there are other ones that are higher up. But I mean, also as a young boy, if we can just be upfront, the scene where he's at the whorehouse.
Yeah, I didn't understand that then.
I didn't, but it was one of those things. I still, my animal instincts inside me as a 6-year-old still sort of knew, going, there's a reason I like this scene. I don't know why I like this scene, but I love this scene. And I'll never forget, it happened. And I looked at my dad, I go, what does horny mean? And he goes, don't worry about it. And I knew when he said that, I needed to start worrying about it right then, and I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
let me
your
skip
next
in front
one,
of you because I'm gonna give you my number one. My number one is Field of Dreams. So, you're looking at me like that. Really?
I mean, okay, I guess I get it.
What is your number one? Ghostbusters?
No, go ahead. Explain your shitty draft day pick first, and then we can get into mine.
So, if you build it, he will come, right? Like, go the distance. Like, there's this voice from somewhere else that is telling Kevin Costner's character to go and do things that are probably ludicrous and crazy that a normal person wouldn't have done. He found Darth Vader's voice. He ended up getting a Dick Van Dyke lookalike to go young, and played some fucking baseball, dude. Like it was a great film. At the end, he got to play catch with his dad, his deceased father. The whole moral of the story was,
there you go. There's the ghost. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's ghosts in the movie.
Yeah. So if the whole moral was to squash a beef with his dad. And at the end, when he goes, Dad, can I have a catch? Like, if you're not choked up at that point, fuck off, fuck out of here.
I'm not. I'm staring at you like you're the redhead Afro kid with a snot bubble. And I'm just going, yeah, really? It's your fucking favorite baseball movie too, right? Here's the thing, Beard. I love the movie. I'm not going to deny that. I just don't see it in this genre. The topic that we're going over, like, I would put that maybe 5, not 1, because it's like, yeah, it deals with a ghost.
I didn't put these in order.
I know you just said 1, so I'm going in order. You're right. I'm wrong. My number 1 you've said already. All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Oh, great one.
And there's a few reasons. I think it was my first, besides Land Before Time, my first introduction to death, but in a sense of where it's like more prominent in the film instead of like, Littlefoot's mom just dies and then you move on. This, like, he goes to hell, he goes to heaven, which I thought him and the heaven dog were going to get it on too and do their happy, hugging or whatever, but that never happened. But it was a movie. I mean, Don Bluth can do no wrong. The animating director of that. Dom DeLuise, the voice of Itchy, who's him. In every Don Bluth, because he's also in An American Tail. He's the cat.
Yep.
Most prominent voice ever. But just everything, the songs, the grittiness, the darkness. It's those cartoons that were dark enough that, like, you try to make those now.
Yeah.
Parents are going to be in an uproar.
Right.
Because they were real. They were, and like I said, it was my first introduction to what death really is, if that makes sense. And it was easily digestible, but still enough over your head that you had to think about it, if that makes sense.
Right.
But still entertaining enough that you didn't fucking care. Love that film.
Yeah,
can't do no wrong.
Such a good film. I think the reason why I put it in honorable mentions, why I put it farther down on my list.
Your list is no order.
Yeah, it's because it's animated. It's one of those struggles that I have. I don't know why I have that struggle, but it is a struggle that I have. But yeah, I do think that there are probably better television series or short series or limited series that deal with afterlife and death a little bit better. And we're not going down that path tonight. But overall, I mean, we can have some disagreements on Field of Dreams, but overall, the list is actually pretty good from the both of us, I would say.
Yeah, great picks. I mean, we have a lot of similarities there. Of course, you're going with the top ones. I mean, like, I would love to say movies like Ghost Dad with Bill Cosby. But I mean, you look at what else is out there and you're like, well, Ghost is better than that movie, or this is better than that movie. It explains more. And in the sense of, like, I had a cop out with 13 Ghosts that, sort of like your Field of Dreams thing, like, there are ghosts in it and there's death, but it's just entertaining and I could watch it over and over again.
The one that I almost put in as an honorable mention, though, was Ghostbusters Afterlife, only because it had what's his name's ghost in it, not Venkman. What's the
Egon?
Egon. It had Egon's ghost in it, and there was like an afterlife version of there that he can actually get to his final. He had more work to do to finish up with life. The other one that almost made my honorable mentions was Casper.
That's a good one. I didn't even think of that. That was when I realized I really liked Christina Ricci.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah. Yeah, that one and the one with Rosie when she grew up to be Rosie O'Donnell. Like she didn't.
That's
not Stand By Me, but Now and Then. Yeah, Talk about growing up.
Or she tapes her boobs down, dude.
Yeah,
and I'm the one. Why?
Ace bandaged them. Yeah, it was terrible.
Why would you ruin that?
I love Christina Ricci, dude. She's delectable. Well, anyway, man, I know that this has been a. I hope that the audience doesn't take this as a somber episode. I hope that it actually is just dialogue that they can just listen to us just being philosophical a little bit. And I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you and everybody else that's reached out and helped out over the last half a week or so that this has happened. And just really appreciate it, dude. So with that, man, what do you got for me?
Thanks for all the dirty talk. Come back and get sanitized. If you're a fan of our show, be sure to check out this one to stay sanitized.
Are you all caught up on podcasts? Are you tired of listening to the same music over and over and need some fresh new tracks? Well, look no further. Gnome here, and I'm teaming up with the Hater, the Tailgater, the Tyrader, and Zuck's favorite prisoner. That's right, Jake from the Bleach Bros podcast. We are bringing you the Hateful Gnomes Music Hut, a bi-weekly mini podcast all about music. We are covering music recommendations, bands, personal stories, concerts, even why Jake listens to the Beebs. Make sure you are following both the Bleach Bros and the Dads on Daypool for updates. Episodes are alternating on both feeds. Raise the curtain, hit the lights, turn the dials to 11, horns up, we are live, baby.